Picture the sound of wind over an open steppe. There's no hum of cities, no buzz of wires overhead, no traffic in the distance, just the low crackle of a fire, the howl of a distant predator, and the soft shuffle of human feet on dirt and stone. This was the world our ancestors lived in for tens of thousands of years, a place of danger, beauty, and unrelenting challenge. And to survive it, they had to be strong. But not just the kind of strength you get from lifting weights in a gym. This was a different breed, a full body, all day, every day kind of strength. The kind you don't train for, you live it. Every moment of life depended on it. Close your eyes for a moment and try to imagine waking up in that world. The first sensation wouldn't be the gentle buzz of an alarm clock or the soft glow of a phone screen. It would be the bite of cold air against your skin, the immediate awareness that warmth, food, and safety weren't guaranteed by the flip of a switch or the opening of a refrigerator door. Every calorie had to be earned through physical effort. Every degree of warmth had to be created and maintained through constant vigilance. Every tool, every shelter, every piece of clothing represented hours or days of backbreaking labor using nothing but human strength and primitive implements. The morning routine of a prehistoric human would exhaust most modern people before lunch. Stoking fires that had burned low during the night, not with matches or lighter fluid, but with carefully tended embers and dry tinder that might have taken hours to gather the day before. Checking snares and traps set around the camp perimeter, work that required crawling through thick underbrush, lifting heavy deadfall logs, and processing any caught game with stone tools sharp enough to cut hide, but requiring tremendous pressure to be effective. Water collection alone was a strength test that most contemporary humans would fail. No turning a handle to fill a glass. Water meant hiking to distant sources, often carrying containers made from animal stomachs or woven baskets sealed with tree sap. A day's water supply for a family group could easily weigh 50 to 80 pounds, transported over terrain that would challenge modern hikers even without loads. And this was just the beginning of the day's physical demands. Before we step into this wild world of early humans, I'd love for you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It helps more than you know, and it means you won't miss the next journey into prehistory. And while you're at it, drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. That little detail helps build a community around these stories, connecting us across time zones, just as these ancient tales connect us across millennia. Now, let's meet one of these people. You might picture a Neanderthal, a stocky figure with broad shoulders, thick forearms, and powerful legs. The truth is, Neanderthals weren't just strong by ancient standards. They were likely stronger than almost anyone alive today. Their bones were denser, their muscle mass greater. Their grip strength might have rivaled that of a modern powerlifter. But they didn't build it through exercise routines. They built it by living, by hauling stone, working wood, carrying heavy prey across brutal terrain. But before we dive deeper into their specific capabilities, we need to understand the environment that forged such strength. The Pleistocene epoch, the geological period when these remarkable humans lived, was a time of dramatic climate shifts and environmental extremes that would challenge even our most advanced modern survival technology. Ice ages swept across continents, dropping temperatures so low that much of Europe and North America became virtually uninhabitable tundra. Then, within relatively short periods, warming trends would transform frozen landscapes into temperate forests or even subtropical regions. These weren't gradual changes that allowed comfortable adaptation over generations. Climate shifts could happen within decades, sometimes even years. Imagine living through a warming period where familiar hunting grounds transformed from frozen steppes to dense forests within a single lifetime. The animals changed, the vegetation changed, even the basic survival strategies had to evolve rapidly. Yet through all these environmental chaos, prehistoric humans not only survived, they thrived. developing physical capabilities that could handle any condition nature threw at them. Living through such environmental chaos required not just strength, but adaptable strength. The kind of physical capabilities that could function effectively, whether hunting reindeer across Arctic tundra or tracking antelope through dense woodland. Bodies that could generate maximum power in freezing conditions where modern athletes would struggle to maintain basic coordination or maintain endurance in heat that would force contemporary military units to limit operations. The predator landscape alone would have created selection pressures for extraordinary strength. Cave lions, weighing over 700 pounds, prowled territories that overlapped with human settlements. These weren't the relatively small modern lions we're familiar with. Cave lions were 25% larger than today's African lions, with proportionally more powerful builds and hunting strategies specifically adapted for taking down large prey. Short-faced bears, standing 11 feet tall on their hind legs, possessed bite forces that could crush skulls with ease. These massive predators, weighing up to 1,500 pounds, were built like living tanks with the speed and agility to run down almost any prey. Saber-toothed cats represented perhaps the most terrifying predators of the prehistoric world. Species like Smilodon fatalis used canine teeth over 7 inches long to dispatch prey larger than adult humans, but their hunting strategy required incredible strength and coordination. Unlike modern big cats that kill through suffocation, saber-toothed cats had to pin struggling prey while delivering precise, devastating bites. The sheer strength required to wrestle with such predators and survive created selection pressures that only the most physically capable humans could meet. Competition for resources meant that prehistoric humans weren't just surviving alongside these predators, they were actively competing with them for the same prey animals, the same sheltered caves, the same water sources. Archaeological evidence from sites like the Dragon's Lair in Spain shows clear evidence of humans and cave bears fighting over cave occupation, with both species leaving behind signs of violent encounters that only the strongest individuals could have survived. But the predator threat extended beyond large carnivores. Pack hunters like dire wolves presented different but equally demanding challenges. These wolves, 25% larger than modern wolves and built for taking down megafauna, hunted in coordinated groups that could number in the dozens. Prehistoric humans had to develop not just individual strength, but group coordination and tactical abilities that could outmaneuver predator packs that had evolved specifically for cooperative hunting. Hyenas of the Pleistocene were far more formidable than their modern counterparts. The giant hyena, Pachycrocuta brevirostris, weighed up to 400 pounds and possessed bone-crushing jaws that could process carcasses no other scavenger could handle. These hyenas didn't just scavenge, they actively hunted large prey and would have competed directly with human groups for fresh kills. The confrontations between humans and these massive hyenas required not just strength, but also courage and tactical thinking that modern humans rarely need to develop. Even smaller predators posed significant threats that required extraordinary physical capabilities to handle. Leopards, with their incredible climbing ability and stealth, could attack from above or drag victims into trees. Wild boar, with their razor-sharp tusks and unpredictable charges, required lightning-fast reflexes and tremendous strength to handle safely. Every environment held predators specifically adapted to that landscape, meaning prehistoric humans had to develop strength capabilities that could handle any threat, anywhere. The environmental stresses went beyond predators. Weather patterns during the Pleistocene were more extreme than anything modern humans experience. Blizzards that could last for weeks, heat waves that exceeded anything recorded in contemporary weather data, and storms that would shut down modern civilization for extended periods. Prehistoric humans had to maintain their strength and effectiveness through all these conditions, often while already engaged in demanding physical activities like hunting or construction. Seasonal food scarcity created additional pressures that shaped prehistoric strength development. Unlike modern humans who can store food through technology and trade, prehistoric populations had to physically endure periods of scarcity while maintaining the strength necessary for survival activities. This meant developing bodies that could function at high levels even under caloric restriction, a capability that required extraordinary efficiency in every body system. The psychological pressures of constant vigilance and life or death decision-making created additional demands on prehistoric physical development. Modern research shows that chronic stress significantly impacts physical performance and recovery. Yet prehistoric humans had to maintain peak physical capabilities despite stress levels that would incapacitate contemporary populations. This required not just physical strength, but mental resilience and stress management capabilities that were integrated into their entire physiological development. Let's start with something as simple as their hands. When you pick up a tool today, a hammer, a wrench, even a heavy bag of groceries, your grip strength peaks at around 70 to 100 pounds of pressure. That's respectable by modern standards. But archaeological analysis of Neanderthal and early Homo sapiens bone structure suggests grip strengths that would make your hand feel like a child's. We're talking about 150 to 200 pounds of crushing force, sustained not for moments, but for hours at a time. To put this in perspective, consider that most modern grip strength testing equipment maxes out at around 200 pounds. Prehistoric humans were regularly operating at the upper limits of what our modern instruments can even measure. But the numbers alone don't capture the full picture of what such grip strength meant in daily life. Picture the sensation of holding a stone tool, not the smooth, ergonomic handles we're accustomed to, but rough, irregular chunks of flint or obsidian that could slice through skin if gripped improperly. These tools had to be held with crushing force to prevent them from slipping during use, yet simultaneously controlled with millimeter precision to achieve the desired results. It's like trying to perform delicate surgery while maintaining a death grip on your instruments. The development of such grip strength wasn't accidental. From earliest childhood, prehistoric humans were handling materials that would challenge modern adults. Children learned to grip and manipulate stone, wood, bone, and hide with forces that would cause immediate fatigue in contemporary hands. By adolescence, their grip strength would have exceeded that of most modern athletes. By adulthood, they possessed crushing power that seems almost supernatural by today's standards. This early development of grip strength was built into every aspect of prehistoric childhood. While modern children play with soft toys and smooth plastic objects, prehistoric children learned to handle rough stone, splintered wood, and irregularly shaped natural materials from the moment they could grasp objects. Their hands developed calluses and strength not through deliberate training, but through simple interaction with their environment. Archaeological analysis of children's tools and toys reveals miniature versions of adult implements that required significant grip strength to use effectively. Small napping stones, tiny scrapers, and child-sized spear points all show wear patterns indicating use that would challenge modern children who spend their formative years handling mass-produced objects designed for easy grip. The progression from childhood to adult grip strength followed a natural trajectory that built capability through constantly increasing challenges. A 5-year-old might start by helping to hold stones steady, while adults napped tools. By 10, they'd be producing their own simple implements. By 15, they'd achieved grip strengths that would challenge modern rock climbers who trained specifically for hand and forearm development. Cultural practices reinforced this natural strength development. Many prehistoric societies likely had grip strength contests or demonstrations that served both as entertainment and as practical assessment of individual capabilities. Archaeological evidence from various sites suggests communal activities that would have showcased and further developed extraordinary grip capabilities. The social importance of grip strength extended beyond individual capability. In groups where survival depended on tool-making, a person with exceptional grip strength became a valuable community resource. They could work with materials others couldn't handle, create tools from inferior stone that others couldn't process, and maintain implements through repairs that required grip forces beyond normal capabilities. Gender differences in grip strength development were likely far less pronounced than in modern populations. Archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric women regularly engaged in activities that required extraordinary grip strength. Hide processing, tool making, and material manipulation that would build hand and forearm strength to levels that modern training rarely achieves regardless of gender. The integration of grip strength with fine motor control created prehistoric humans whose hands were simultaneously precision instruments and crushing tools. Modern occupational therapy focuses on either strength or dexterity, but prehistoric hands developed both capabilities to extraordinary levels through the demands of daily survival. Imagine the sensation of holding that kind of power in your palm. The pressure would be enough to crack walnuts between your fingers, to twist thick branches until they snapped, to grip stone so tightly that the rock itself began to yield. And this wasn't party trick strength. It was the foundation of survival. Every tool they used, every weapon they crafted, every shelter they built started with hands that could shape the world through pure physical force. But let's dig deeper into what this meant in practical terms. Modern rock climbers, who specifically trained grip strength for their sport, might maintain a crushing grip for 30 to 60 seconds before experiencing failure. Prehistoric humans maintained similar or greater forces for hours while performing complex tasks. They weren't just hanging from rock faces, they were manipulating materials, shaping tools, and processing food while sustaining grip forces that would exhaust modern specialists. The psychological component of such grip strength cannot be overlooked. There's something profoundly confidence-building about knowing your hands can crush almost anything they encounter. Modern people often feel helpless when confronted with stuck jar lids or stubborn bolts. Prehistoric humans possessed hands that could solve almost any grip-related problem through pure crushing force. This created a fundamental relationship with the physical world that modern humans have largely lost. Archaeological analysis from the Kebara cave in Israel has revealed Neanderthal hand bones with muscle attachment points so pronounced they appeared diseased to modern medical students. These weren't pathological conditions, they were normal adaptations to lives where every task required grip forces that would injure contemporary hands. The thumb alone shows muscle attachment sites indicating crushing power that modern anatomy textbooks classify as extreme even for professional strongmen. Stone tool creation wasn't the gentle craft we might imagine. When archaeologists at the Boxgrove site in England examined 500,000-year-old hand axes, they found evidence of incredible precision combined with crushing power. Each tool required hundreds of carefully controlled strikes, removing flakes of stone with exact angles and pressures. The force needed wasn't just in the striking, it was in the grip that held the core stone steady while absorbing the shock of each impact. Think about the physics involved. Every time a stone toolmaker struck a piece of flint, the impact force had to be absorbed by the hand holding the core. Modern experiments show that these impacts can generate forces exceeding 500 pounds momentarily. The grip had to not only hold against this force but maintain positional control to ensure the next strike landed precisely where intended. This happened hundreds or thousands of times during the creation of a single tool. Modern experiments in knapping, the ancient art of shaping stone, have shown that even experienced craftsmen develop hand cramps and forearm fatigue within 30 minutes. Yet our ancestors did this for hours, day after day, their hands gradually building strength that seems almost superhuman by today's standards. The muscle attachments on ancient finger bones show thickening that rivals those found in modern rock climbers and grip strength athletes, but spread across every finger, every joint. The sensation of working stone wasn't just about pressure. It required a delicate balance between crushing force and surgical precision. Too much force and the stone would shatter uselessly. Too little and it wouldn't fracture at all. Their hands had to feel the exact moment when pressure became productive force, sensing the grain of the rock, the angle of impact, the precise point where controlled violence became useful tool. Professional stone knappers today, craftspeople who spend their careers learning prehistoric techniques, report that achieving even basic proficiency in stone tool making requires developing grip strength that most modern people never approach. Yet, archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric children were producing functional stone tools by their early teens, indicating grip development that began in earliest childhood and continued throughout life. The diversity of grip types required by prehistoric life created hands that were strong in every possible position. Modern grip strength testing typically measures only crushing grip, pressing fingers against palm. But prehistoric hands needed crushing grip, pinch grip, support grip, and countless variations and combinations. Archaeological analysis of tool wear patterns shows evidence of grip positions and force applications that would challenge modern occupational therapists to even categorize. Biomechanical analysis of Neanderthal thumb bones reveals something remarkable. They were built for power grip in ways that modern humans aren't. The opposable thumb, humanity's signature advantage, was taken to its absolute limit. Where our thumbs are built for precision and dexterity, theirs were engineered for raw, crushing power, combined with the ability to manipulate objects with millimeter accuracy. The integration of grip strength with fine motor control created capabilities that seemed contradictory by modern standards. The same hands that could pulverize bone could thread sinew through needle holes carved from bird bones. Hands that could crush stone could paint detailed cave art with brushes made from animal hair. This wasn't a trade-off between power and precision. It was the development of both capabilities to extraordinary levels. Archaeological evidence from hide processing sites reveals another dimension of prehistoric grip strength. Preparing animal hides for clothing required gripping and manipulating wet, slippery materials that would slide through modern hands despite maximum effort. The grip strength needed to maintain control of a water-soaked mammoth hide while scraping it clean with stone tools would challenge even modern industrial workers using specialized equipment. The sound of stone knapping would have filled their world, the sharp crack of flint, the ring of striking stone, the scrape of resharpening edges. But beneath those sounds was the whisper of incredible force being channeled through human hands, fingers that could crush bone and tendons that could maintain that pressure for longer than any modern human could endure. Archaeological evidence from the Olduvai Gorge shows tool-making sites where the sheer volume of worked stone suggests days of continuous labor. Thousands of stone flakes scattered around work areas, each one requiring that crushing grip strength, that sustained pressure, that perfect balance of power and control. The hands that created these tools weren't just strong, they were strong in ways we've forgotten how to be. But perhaps most remarkably, this crushing grip strength coexisted with extraordinary dexterity. The same hands that could pulverize stone could also thread sinew through needle holes carved from bone, could paint detailed cave art with brushes made from animal hair, could craft musical instruments from hollow bird bones. Strength and precision weren't opposites in their world. They were partners in survival. The calloused palms and powerful fingers of our ancestors tell a story of daily life where raw physical force was as essential as breath. Every dawn brought tasks that demanded crushing grip strength, breaking bones for marrow, stripping bark for cordage, shaping wood for spear shafts, processing hides for clothing. Their hands were simultaneously tools, weapons, and instruments of creation, sculpted by necessity into something we can barely comprehend. Consider the psychological impact of possessing such grip strength. Modern people often feel frustrated by tasks that require more hand strength than they possess. Opening stubborn containers, gripping slippery objects, maintaining hold during physical exertion. Prehistoric humans possessed grip strength that made almost any gripping task effortless. This created a fundamental confidence in their physical relationship with the world that modern humans rarely experience. This confidence extended into every aspect of their lives. When you can crush almost anything your hands encounter, your entire approach to problem solving changes. Stuck objects, resistant materials, and challenging manipulations become minor inconveniences rather than major obstacles. This psychological advantage provided prehistoric humans with a sense of capability and self-reliance that modern technology-dependent populations have largely lost. The daily reinforcement of grip strength through constant use created a positive feedback loop that built not just physical capability, but psychological resilience. Every successful tool-making session, every processed hide, every cracked bone for marrow represented a small victory that reinforced the individual's sense of physical competence and environmental mastery. Archaeological evidence suggests that grip strength was often used as a marker of overall fitness and capability within prehistoric communities. Tool marks, wear patterns, and construction evidence indicate that individuals with exceptional grip strength often took on specialized roles that required this capability, creating social hierarchies based partly on physical strength that went far beyond simple dominance displays. The loss of such grip strength in modern populations represents more than just physical capability. It's a fundamental disconnect from our material environment. When most objects in our world are designed to be easily manipulated by weak hands, we lose not just the strength, but the confidence and problem-solving approaches that come from knowing our hands can handle almost any physical challenge. Training modern humans to achieve prehistoric grip strength levels reveals just how much capability we've lost. Professional athletes and strongmen who attempt to develop grip strength comparable to prehistoric levels report that the psychological changes are as significant as the physical ones. The sense of capability and confidence that comes from powerful hands transforms how individuals approach not just physical tasks, but challenges in general. The specialized grip requirements of different prehistoric activities created hands that were strong in every possible position and orientation. Unlike modern grip training that often focuses on a few standard positions, prehistoric hands needed to generate maximum force while twisted, angled, or positioned in ways that would be considered biomechanically disadvantageous today. Material processing requirements meant that prehistoric grip strength had to be maintained for extended periods while performing complex manipulations. Modern grip training focuses on maximum force for short periods, but prehistoric activities required sustained near-maximum grip strength for hours while simultaneously controlling precise movements and pressures. The weather resistance of prehistoric grip strength represents another dimension that modern training rarely addresses. Maintaining crushing grip force while hands are cold, wet, or numb from environmental exposure requires neuromuscular capabilities that most contemporary humans never develop. Yet prehistoric humans had to maintain tool-making and material processing capabilities regardless of environmental conditions. Recovery and maintenance of grip strength was built into prehistoric lifestyle patterns rather than requiring specific rest and rehabilitation protocols. The constant low-level grip activities of daily life maintained strength while allowing recovery from maximum efforts, creating sustainable patterns of strength development that modern training struggles to replicate. If their grip strength seems impossible, wait until you see what supported it. The skeletal remains of Neanderthals and early modern humans reveal bone density that would make a modern orthopedic surgeon do a double take. We're not talking about subtle differences. We're talking about bones that were fundamentally denser, thicker, and more robust than anything seen in contemporary populations. The first time a modern researcher examines prehistoric human bones, the reaction is often disbelief. These aren't the bones of people who lived difficult lives. They're the bones of people who lived impossible lives by modern standards. Bone density measurements that would indicate serious pathology in contemporary humans were simply normal for prehistoric populations. At La Chapelle-aux-Saints in France, the famous Neanderthal skeleton discovered in 1908 showed femur bones with cortical thickness, the dense outer shell of bone that was 40% greater than modern averages. This wasn't just one individual, it was the norm. Bone scans of Neanderthal remains consistently show mineral density levels that would be considered extraordinary in modern humans, even in elite athletes. To understand what this means, imagine bones that are not just stronger, but fundamentally different in their basic architecture. Modern human bones are engineered for efficiency, strong enough for our needs, but optimized for weight and metabolic cost. Prehistoric bones were engineered for survival in a world that regularly subjected them to forces that would shatter contemporary skeletons. But density was only part of the story. The architecture of these bones was different. Where modern human bones are optimized for efficiency, strong enough for our needs but no stronger, ancient bones were built like medieval castle walls, thick, redundant, capable of absorbing punishment that would shatter contemporary skeletons. The compact bone tissue, the hard outer layer that provides strength, was sometimes twice as thick as what we see today. The process of bone remodeling tells us about the daily life of prehistoric humans in ways that no other evidence can. Bones respond to stress throughout life, constantly breaking down and rebuilding in response to the forces placed upon them. The bone density we see in prehistoric remains means these people were subjecting their skeletons to loading patterns that would injure modern humans within days. Consider what it takes to build such bone density naturally. Modern astronauts lose bone density in zero gravity because their skeletons aren't subjected to the loading forces that maintain bone strength. Prehistoric humans were subjected to loading forces so intense that their bones became denser than anything we see in contemporary populations, even among athletes who train specifically to build bone density. Muscle attachment points, the rough raised areas where tendons connected muscle to bone, tell an even more dramatic story. These entheses, as anatomists call them, were massive. On ancient upper arm bones, the deltoid tuberosity, where shoulder muscles attached, could be felt as prominent ridges and bumps. Modern humans have subtle muscle attachment points. Ancient humans had bone architecture that looked like it was designed for industrial machinery. The biomechanical implications are staggering. When muscle pulls on bone with tremendous force over years of use, the bone responds by growing stronger and developing specialized attachment points to handle the stress. The muscle attachment sites we see on prehistoric bones indicate forces that would tear modern tendons from their bone attachments. These weren't just strong people. They were people whose strength had literally reshaped their skeletal architecture. Archaeological analysis of these attachment points reveals specific activity patterns that shaped bone development. The right arm bones of prehistoric tool makers show asymmetric development that indicates thousands of hours of stone knapping. The leg bones of persistence hunters show stress patterns that mirror those of modern endurance athletes, but magnified far beyond anything seen today. Consider the leg bones of persistence hunters, early Homo sapiens who ran down prey over vast distances. Their tibias and femurs show not just density, but architectural adaptations for handling repetitive impact loading. The trabecular bone, the spongy interior that absorbs shock, developed in patterns that mirror those seen in modern marathon runners, but magnified far beyond anything found today. At the Cima de los Huesos site in Spain, 400,000-year-old remains show something remarkable: bones that had healed from fractures that would be career-ending for modern athletes. Compound fractures of major limb bones that healed back to full function, leaving the bone stronger at the breakpoint than the original. This wasn't medical intervention. This was raw biological resilience responding to lives of unrelenting physical stress. The healing patterns visible in prehistoric bones tell stories of incredible toughness. Fractures that would require surgical intervention and months of rehabilitation today healed naturally, while these individuals continued their physically demanding lifestyles. Broken ribs that show evidence of healing, while the individual continued heavy lifting. Fractured skulls that healed completely with no apparent loss of function. Modern medical understanding suggests that many of these injuries should have been fatal or permanently debilitating. Yet archaeological evidence shows complete healing and return to full function. This suggests not just stronger bones, but more efficient healing processes and pain tolerance that allowed continued activity during recovery periods that would incapacitate modern humans. The vertebral columns of ancient humans tell a particularly striking story. Where modern spines often show wear and degeneration from relatively minor stresses, ancient spines were built to handle enormous loads. The vertebral bodies, the weight-bearing portions of each vertebra, were larger and denser. The spaces for spinal cord and nerve passage were smaller in proportion, suggesting spines optimized for load-bearing over fine motor control. Spinal loading patterns visible in prehistoric remains indicate daily activities that would be considered extreme by modern standards. Vertebral compression that would cause disc herniation in contemporary spines was apparently routine for prehistoric populations. Yet these spines show remarkable longevity and function despite decades of loading that would destroy modern spinal columns. Osteoarthritis patterns in ancient joints reveal the scope of daily physical stress. But rather than the debilitating arthritis we associate with joint wear, these ancient changes often show adaptation. Joints that remodeled themselves to handle greater loads, cartilage that thickened in response to pressure, bone surfaces that developed specialized contact areas for repetitive motions. The hip joints of prehistoric humans show wear patterns that would indicate pathological overuse in modern populations. Yet these joints continued functioning effectively for decades under loading conditions that would require joint replacement surgery today. The acetabulum, the socket portion of the hip joint, developed bone spurs and contact patterns that actually improved joint stability under heavy loading. The skull tells its own story of strength. Neanderthal craniums weren't just larger, they were built with brow ridges and occipital protuberances that served as attachment points for incredibly powerful neck and jaw muscles. The bone thickness of ancient skulls could be double that of modern humans, built to absorb impacts that would cause concussions today. Cranial capacity in prehistoric humans was often larger than modern averages, but the skull architecture was fundamentally different. Modern skulls are optimized for brain protection with minimal weight. Prehistoric skulls were built like helmets, with redundant layers of bone and structural reinforcement that could absorb tremendous impacts without compromising brain function. Perhaps most remarkably, this bone density was achieved without any of the factors we associate with bone health today. No calcium supplements, no vitamin D fortification, no weight training programs, just the relentless loading of daily survival, the constant stress of lifting, carrying, running, climbing, and fighting that gradually transformed human skeletons into something closer to living stone than the relatively fragile frameworks we carry today. The metabolic cost of maintaining such dense bones was substantial. Modern estimates suggest that prehistoric humans required 15 to 20% more calories simply to maintain their skeletal systems compared to contemporary populations. Yet, this was the trade-off evolution made. Better to carry the weight of indestructible bones than risk the structural failure that could mean death in a world without emergency rooms or surgical repair. But these dense bones weren't just stronger, they were heavier. The energy cost of carrying around a skeleton that was 30–40% denser than modern human bones was substantial. Yet this was the trade-off evolution made. Better to carry the weight of indestructible bones than risk the structural failure that could mean death in a world without emergency rooms or surgical repair. The daily loading that created these superhuman skeletal foundations wasn't limited to specific exercises or activities. Every movement throughout the day contributed to bone development. Walking across uneven terrain created loading patterns that strengthened every bone in the lower body. Carrying irregular loads developed bone density throughout the spine and shoulders. Even sleeping on hard surfaces created loading patterns that maintained bone strength in ways that modern soft bedding cannot replicate. The transformation from dense bones to devastating weapons began in the shoulders and arms of our ancestors. When we talk about throwing ability, we're not discussing weekend softball or casual games of catch. We're examining the explosive, life-or-death accuracy that meant the difference between eating and starving, between protection and becoming prey yourself. Biomechanical analysis of Neanderthal shoulder girdles reveals something extraordinary. They were built for thrusting rather than throwing. The shoulder blade, or scapula, was positioned differently than in modern humans, creating a leverage system optimized for driving spears forward with tremendous force at close range. Imagine standing within arm's reach of a charging cave bear, your survival depending on driving a wooden spear through thick hide and muscle to reach vital organs beneath. But early Homo sapiens developed something even more remarkable, the most accurate throwing capability ever documented in the animal kingdom. The human throwing motion involves a kinetic chain that starts in the legs, transfers through the core, accelerates through the shoulder, and culminates in a wrist snap that can propel projectiles at velocities approaching 100 miles per hour. This isn't theoretical, it's measurable physics applied to survival. At the Schöningen site in Germany, archaeologists discovered 300,000-year-old wooden spears that were perfectly balanced for throwing. These weren't crude pointed sticks, they were aerodynamically designed projectiles, with the center of gravity positioned exactly where it needed to be for stable flight. The craftsmanship was so sophisticated that modern engineers have struggled to replicate the throwing characteristics using period-appropriate materials and techniques. The shoulder joint of an accomplished prehistoric hunter showed adaptations that would be remarkable even in modern elite athletes. The humeral head, the ball portion of the ball and socket shoulder joint, developed stress patterns indicating thousands of high-velocity throws. The rotator cuff attachment points were enlarged to accommodate muscles capable of both generating tremendous velocity and decelerating the arm after release without injury. But velocity without accuracy was worthless. The fine motor control required for precision throwing placed extraordinary demands on the nervous system and the muscular coordination of the entire upper body. Modern studies of elite javelin throwers show that accurate throwing at maximum velocity requires precise timing within milliseconds across dozens of muscle groups. Ancient hunters had to achieve this level of coordination not in a controlled stadium environment, but while moving through rough terrain, often while being hunted themselves. The archaeological record at sites like Leringen, Germany, where a 125,000-year-old yew spear was found embedded in the skeleton of a straight-tusked elephant, demonstrates the lethal effectiveness of prehistoric throwing ability. This wasn't luck. It was skill refined through generations of practice, muscle memory built through thousands of repetitions, and strength developed through constant use. Consider the forces involved in bringing down megafauna with throwing spears. A woolly mammoth's hide could be 2 inches thick, layered with fat and dense muscle beneath. For a spear to penetrate deeply enough to cause fatal damage, it needed to impact with tremendous force while maintaining enough structural integrity not to break or deflect. This meant throws that would challenge even modern Olympic athletes, delivered with wooden weapons that weighed substantially more than contemporary javelins. The atlatl, or spear thrower, represents perhaps the pinnacle of prehistoric throwing technology. This leverage device effectively extended the length of the throwing arm, dramatically increasing velocity while maintaining accuracy. Archaeological evidence from Australia, Europe, and the Americas shows these tools being used to achieve throwing distances and impacts that seem almost supernatural by modern standards. Upper arm bones from accomplished prehistoric hunters show muscle attachment patterns that indicate extraordinary tricep and deltoid development. The spiral groove where the radial nerve passes around the humerus is often enlarged, suggesting adaptation to the repetitive stress of maximum effort throwing motions. These weren't arms built for display, they were biological artillery, capable of launching projectiles with lethal force at remarkable distances. But perhaps most impressively, this throwing ability wasn't limited to adult males. Evidence suggests that accuracy and power were developed across entire communities, with women and even adolescents achieving throwing capabilities that would be considered exceptional today. Survival depended not on having 1 or 2 expert hunters, but on developing throwing skills across the entire group. The muscle memory required for this level of throwing accuracy was built through constant practice from childhood onward. Unlike modern athletes who might train for specific seasons, prehistoric hunters practiced their craft daily, their neural pathways and muscle coordination developing through years of repetition until accurate throwing became as natural as walking. If throwing revealed the explosive power hidden in ancient arms, carrying exposed the sustained strength that defined prehistoric life. Modern humans occasionally lift heavy objects, moving furniture, carrying luggage, perhaps helping someone move. But for our ancestors, carrying massive loads wasn't an occasional inconvenience. It was a daily reality that shaped their entire physical development. Archaeological evidence from Paleolithic sites reveals the scope of prehistoric load-bearing. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, researchers found evidence of mammoth bones weighing over 200 pounds being transported several miles from kill sites to living areas. These weren't occasional heroic efforts. Tool marks and wear patterns suggest this kind of heavy transport was routine, accomplished by people whose body weight rarely exceeded 150 pounds. The biomechanical challenge of carrying such loads is extraordinary. Modern military studies show that trained soldiers carrying 80 to 100 pounds of equipment experience significant performance degradation and injury risk. Yet archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans routinely carried proportionally heavier loads over much greater distances, often across terrain that would challenge unloaded modern hikers. Skeletal analysis reveals how prehistoric bodies adapted to this carrying lifestyle. The vertebral column shows structural modifications that would be considered pathological today, but represented functional adaptations to heavy loading. Enlarged vertebral bodies, thickened intervertebral discs, and modified spinal curvatures that optimized the spine for load bearing rather than the upright posture we consider normal. The pelvis tells a particularly striking story. hip bones of prehistoric humans show stress patterns indicating regular carrying of asymmetric loads. Children on one hip, bundles of materials on the other, tools and weapons distributed across the body. The hip joint itself developed contact patterns suggesting loads that would cause rapid wear in modern populations, yet these joints often showed remarkable longevity and function despite decades of heavy use. Carrying techniques were sophisticated and varied. Tumplines, straps that distributed weight across the forehead and neck, allowed prehistoric people to carry loads that would be impossible to lift with arm strength alone. Archaeological evidence from various sites shows the development of specialized carrying frames, burden baskets, and load distributing systems that could turn a human into a remarkably efficient pack animal. The shoulder girdle of habitual carriers developed in ways that modern anatomy textbooks would consider abnormal. Enlarged clavicles, modified scapular positioning, and hypertrophied trapezius muscle attachments created a carrying platform capable of supporting enormous loads while maintaining mobility. The neck muscles, often overlooked in discussions of strength, became pillars of bone and sinew capable of supporting loads that would crush modern cervical spines. But carrying wasn't just about brute strength. It required sophisticated balance and coordination. Moving heavy loads over uneven terrain through dense forests, up steep slopes, and across river crossings demanded constant micro-adjustments and total body coordination. The proprioceptive systems, the body's ability to sense position and movement, were refined through constant practice into something approaching superhuman awareness. Women, often underestimated in discussions of prehistoric strength, show particularly remarkable carrying adaptations. Evidence suggests they routinely transported not only their own supplies and tools, but also carried children over vast distances. Modern estimates suggest prehistoric women could carry loads equivalent to 30 to 40% of their body weight for distances of 10 to 15 miles, day after day, while maintaining the ability to gather food, tend fires, and care for children. The psychological aspects of carrying such loads shaped prehistoric mental toughness in ways we can barely comprehend. Modern athletes train with graduated load increases, scheduled rest periods, and sophisticated recovery protocols. Prehistoric humans simply carried what needed to be carried for as long and as far as necessary because the alternative was death. Archaeological experiments attempting to replicate prehistoric carrying loads using period-appropriate materials consistently result in modern volunteers reaching exhaustion within hours. Yet evidence suggests our ancestors maintained these loads not just for hours, but for days or even weeks during seasonal migrations or when moving to new resource areas. The load distribution systems they developed were masterpieces of ergonomic engineering. Multiple contact points distributed weight across the entire torso, specialized knots and fastenings that adjusted automatically to shifting loads, and carrying positions that could be varied to prevent fatigue in any single muscle group. These weren't random carrying methods. They were sophisticated technologies refined through generations of experience. The carrying strength that defined prehistoric upper bodies was matched by lower body capabilities that transform our understanding of human endurance. When we discuss prehistoric running, we're not talking about jogging around a neighborhood or completing weekend 5K races. We're examining a form of hunting that required running down large game animals over distances that would challenge modern vehicles, sustained at speeds that would exhaust contemporary athletes. Persistence hunting, still practiced by some African tribes today, reveals the extraordinary running capabilities our ancestors developed. The basic strategy seems simple: chase an animal until it collapses from heat exhaustion. The execution requires running 20 to 30 miles at sustained speeds across terrain ranging from desert sand to rocky hills, often in extreme heat. without water breaks or energy supplements. The Tarahumara people of Mexico's Copper Canyon provide a modern glimpse into this ancient capability. Running 50 to 100 miles without rest, often while kicking a wooden ball, they achieve endurance levels that seem impossible to sedentary populations. But archaeological evidence suggests that such running ability was once universal among human populations, not the exception we consider it today. Biomechanical analysis of prehistoric leg bones reveals architectural adaptations that optimized humans for distance running. The Achilles tendon, humanity's secret weapon for efficient locomotion, was proportionally longer and more robust in ancient populations. This tendon acts as a biological spring, storing and releasing energy with each stride, allowing runners to maintain pace with minimal additional energy expenditure. The foot architecture of prehistoric humans was fundamentally different from modern feet. Archaeological footprints preserved in volcanic ash show feet with higher arches, longer toes, and wider forefoot spread, natural features that modern athletes try to replicate with specialized running shoes. These weren't feet adapted for walking on flat surfaces. They were biological suspension systems designed for traversing any terrain at speed. Calf muscle development in prehistoric runners would have been extraordinary. The soleus and gastrocnemius muscles, which power push-off with each stride, show attachment points on ancient leg bones that indicate muscle mass far beyond what modern distance runners achieve. These weren't just big muscles. They were specifically adapted for the sustained contractions required for hours of continuous running. The quadriceps tell an equally impressive story. Femur bones from prehistoric sites show muscle attachment patterns indicating thigh development that would be remarkable even in modern sprinters or cyclists. But unlike modern athletes who specialize in either power or endurance, ancient humans needed both: the explosive strength to accelerate quickly when pursuing prey and the endurance to maintain that pursuit for hours. Hip stability during extended running requires extraordinary core and glute strength. The greater trochanter, the bony prominence where hip muscles attach, is dramatically enlarged in prehistoric femurs, indicating gluteal muscle development that would transform the entire silhouette of the human posterior. These muscles weren't just large, they were specifically adapted for the hip extension and stabilization required for efficient distance running. Running technique was likely far superior to what most modern recreational runners achieve. Without cushioned shoes or flat surfaces, every step required precise foot placement, natural shock absorption, and biomechanically efficient movement patterns. Archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans developed running forms that minimized injury while maximizing efficiency. Techniques that modern barefoot running enthusiasts spend years trying to relearn. The cardiovascular demands of persistence hunting shaped prehistoric hearts and lungs in remarkable ways. While we can't examine soft tissues from archaeological sites, we can infer circulatory adaptations from bone structure. Enlarged rib cages suggest lung capacities optimized for sustained aerobic activity, while increased bone density throughout the skeleton indicates circulation systems capable of supporting extreme endurance activities. Environmental factors made prehistoric running even more challenging than modern endurance events. No marked trails, no aid stations, no weather reports or GPS navigation. Runners had to navigate by natural landmarks while maintaining pursuit of prey that knew the terrain better than they did. The mental component of such running, maintaining focus and determination through hours of physical exhaustion, required psychological strength that matched the physical capabilities. The social aspects of persistence hunting reveal something remarkable about prehistoric cooperation. While popular images often show solitary hunters, archaeological evidence suggests coordinated group efforts where multiple runners would take turns maintaining pursuit, allowing partial recovery while ensuring the prey never had opportunity to rest. This required communication systems, tactical coordination, and shared commitment that extended individual capabilities far beyond what any single runner could achieve. Group running over vast distances also created sophisticated knowledge of terrain, weather patterns, and animal behavior. Successful persistence hunters needed to read landscape like a map, understanding where water sources lay, which routes would be easiest for prey fleeing in exhaustion, and how environmental conditions would affect both hunter and hunted throughout the day. Beyond the explosive power of throwing and the endurance of running lay another dimension of prehistoric strength that modern life rarely demands: the ability to grapple with living creatures that could tear you apart. When archaeologists examine prehistoric remains, they find evidence of close combat encounters that reveal core strength capabilities far beyond what contemporary athletes achieve. Healed bite marks on ancient human bones tell stories of survival that seem almost mythical. Cave bear teeth marks on femurs that healed completely. Lion claw scars on ribs that show bone remodeling around the injury. These weren't random attacks that ended badly. They were encounters that prehistoric humans survived through a combination of weapons, teamwork, and the kind of full-body strength needed to wrestle with predators weighing several times their own body weight. The core musculature required for such encounters extends far beyond what modern fitness enthusiasts consider core strength. We're talking about the entire muscular system, from the pelvic floor to the upper chest, specifically adapted for rotational power, anti-rotation stability, and the ability to generate force while being pulled, twisted, or lifted off balance by an opponent that outweighs you dramatically. Archaeological evidence from sites like Atapuerca in Spain shows Homo heidelbergensis remains with muscle attachment patterns indicating extraordinary development of the internal and external obliques, the transverse abdominis, and the multifidus muscles of the spine. These deep stabilizing muscles were built not for aesthetic appeal, but for the kind of functional strength needed when your life depends on maintaining position during physical combat. The concept of ground fighting takes on entirely different meaning when your opponent is a cave lion rather than another human. Modern martial artists train for years to develop the core strength and body awareness needed for effective grappling, but prehistoric humans developed these capabilities through life or death encounters where failure meant becoming prey rather than losing a tournament match. Torso strength wasn't limited to defensive encounters. Hunting large game often required physical restraint techniques, holding struggling animals while other hunters delivered killing blows, or maintaining grip on ropes or spears attached to wounded prey. The rotational strength needed to maintain leverage while a wounded mammoth thrashed at the end of a spear line would challenge modern powerlifters. Yet archaeological evidence suggests this was routine practice. The biomechanics of prehistoric core strength were fundamentally different from modern approaches. Rather than isolating specific muscle groups through targeted exercises, ancient humans developed integrated strength through functional movements that engaged the entire kinetic chain simultaneously. Lifting irregular loads, wrestling with unpredictable opponents, and maintaining balance on uneven terrain created strength that was both powerful and adaptable. Spinal erector strength, the muscles that run along the vertebral column, shows particularly remarkable development in prehistoric remains. The spinous processes, the bony projections you can feel along your spine, are dramatically enlarged in ancient skeletons, indicating erector spinae muscles capable of generating enormous extension force while maintaining stability under complex loading conditions. Archaeological analysis of rib bone stress patterns reveals something fascinating about prehistoric breathing under extreme exertion. The intercostal muscles, which control breathing, show adaptations suggesting the ability to maintain respiratory function even while the core musculature was maximally engaged for strength generation. This represents a level of muscular coordination that modern athletes rarely achieve, the ability to breathe efficiently while generating maximum force. Combat with human opponents required different but equally demanding core capabilities. Archaeological evidence of healed cranial fractures and defensive arm injuries suggests hand-to-hand combat was common enough to leave clear signatures in the skeletal record. The kind of core strength needed to generate knockout power while maintaining balance and defensive position requires years of development under conditions that modern training can only approximate. The integration of core strength with total body power created prehistoric humans who were essentially biological weapons. Their ability to generate rotational force could deliver spear thrusts or club strikes with devastating impact, while their anti-rotation strength allowed them to maintain position and balance under conditions that would overwhelm contemporary athletes. Recovery from core-intensive activities was built into prehistoric lifestyle patterns. Unlike modern athletes who might perform intense core training a few times per week, ancient humans engaged these muscle systems constantly, building not just strength, but also the work capacity and recovery ability that allowed sustained high-level performance day after day. The psychological component of core strength under extreme stress cannot be overlooked. Modern research shows that core stability is closely linked to confidence and aggression under pressure. Prehistoric humans who could maintain physical stability while being attacked by predators or engaged in combat with rivals developed not just physical strength, but the kind of psychological resilience that allowed them to function effectively under conditions that would paralyze modern humans. The discussion of prehistoric strength would be incomplete without examining one of the most overlooked yet remarkable aspects of ancient human power: their jaws. When we consider bite force, most people think of predatory animals, sharks, crocodiles, lions, but archaeological evidence reveals that prehistoric human jaws generated crushing forces that would be considered extraordinary even among these specialized predators. Dental analysis of Neanderthal remains consistently shows bite forces approaching 300 pounds per square inch, significantly higher than the 162 psi average of modern humans. But more remarkably, this crushing power was combined with precision control that allowed delicate manipulation of food, materials, and tools. Their jaws weren't just powerful. They were precision instruments capable of tasks that would challenge modern machinery. The masseter muscles, which provide the primary biting force, show attachment points on prehistoric skulls that indicate muscle mass far beyond what contemporary humans possess. The zygomatic arches, the cheekbones that anchor these muscles, are dramatically flared and thickened in ancient skulls, creating attachment surfaces capable of supporting jaw muscles that would transform the entire facial structure. Archaeological evidence of prehistoric dental wear patterns tells fascinating stories about daily jaw use. Teeth worn down not from disease or poor hygiene, but from regular use as tools. Incisors worn into precise bevels from stripping plant fibers. Molars ground flat from processing tough materials. Canines shaped into specialized tools from years of specific use patterns. These weren't teeth damaged by survival. They were teeth adapted by survival. The temporomandibular joint, where the jaw connects to the skull, shows structural modifications in prehistoric remains that indicate sustained, heavy loading. Modern TMJ disorders often result from relatively minor stress patterns, yet ancient jaws show evidence of forces that would be considered pathological today, but which functioned perfectly for decades of heavy use. Bone cracking represents perhaps the most impressive demonstration of prehistoric jaw strength. Archaeological sites are littered with mammoth and other large animal bones that have been systematically cracked open for marrow extraction. The force required to fracture large mammal leg bones exceeds what most modern humans could generate with tools, yet tooth marks on these bones suggest they were often cracked using jaw power alone. The processing of plant materials required different but equally demanding jaw capabilities. Many prehistoric plant foods were tough, fibrous materials that required extensive chewing to become digestible. Archaeological analysis of plant remains from ancient coprolites, fossilized feces, shows consumption of materials that would be inedible to modern humans without extensive mechanical processing. Temporalis muscle development, visible in the enlarged temporal fossae of prehistoric skulls, indicates jaw-closing forces that were sustained for hours at a time. Modern humans might chew vigorously for minutes during a meal, but archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans regularly engaged in processing activities that required maximum jaw force for extended periods. The integration of jaw strength with overall cranial structure created reinforcement patterns that distributed crushing forces throughout the entire skull. Pronounced brow ridges, enlarged mastoid processes, and thickened cranial bones all serve to manage the stresses generated by jaw muscles capable of producing forces that would fracture modern skulls. Dental analysis reveals something remarkable about prehistoric pain tolerance. Teeth worn down to the nerve, abscesses that would be agonizing today, and wear patterns that indicate continued use despite what must have been significant discomfort. Yet these individuals continued using their jaws as precision tools, suggesting pain tolerance that was built through necessity rather than choice. The social implications of jaw strength extended beyond individual survival. Food sharing, particularly the processing of tough materials for children and elderly group members, required individuals capable of breaking down materials that others couldn't handle. Jaw strength became a form of community service, with the most powerful individuals taking on processing tasks that enabled group survival. Experimental archaeology attempts to replicate prehistoric jaw capabilities consistently show modern volunteers reaching exhaustion within minutes when attempting to process materials that archaeological evidence suggests were handled routinely. The sustained jaw strength required for prehistoric survival represents muscular capabilities that seem almost impossible by contemporary standards. The precision component of prehistoric jaw strength is perhaps most remarkable. These weren't just powerful crushing tools, they were precision instruments capable of complex manipulations. Archaeological evidence shows use of teeth for cord making, hide processing, tool finishing, and material shaping that required both tremendous force and millimeter-level control. The monuments of prehistory weren't built by machines or sophisticated engineering. They were raised through human strength so extraordinary that modern construction workers, even with power tools and machinery, struggle to replicate the achievements. When we examine megalithic constructions like Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, or the dolmens scattered across Europe, we're looking at evidence of prehistoric human strength that challenges everything we think we know about ancient capabilities. At Stonehenge, the sarsen stones weigh up to 50 tons each. These massive blocks were somehow transported from quarries 20 miles away, then raised into precise positions using nothing but human power, wooden levers, and stone tools. Modern attempts to replicate these achievements using period-appropriate techniques consistently require teams of 100-plus people working in perfect coordination, generating forces that seem almost impossible to achieve without mechanical assistance. But Stonehenge represents just one example of prehistoric construction that defies easy explanation. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built over 11,000 years ago, features limestone pillars weighing up to 16 tons that were quarried, carved with intricate designs, then transported and erected with precision that challenges modern engineering capabilities. The sheer human strength required for such projects represents organization and power that seems inconsistent with our images of primitive societies. Archaeological analysis of lever systems and fulcrum points at megalithic sites reveals sophisticated understanding of mechanical advantage, but even with optimal leverage systems, the human strength required to move these masses would be extraordinary. Modern physics calculations suggest that moving a 50-ton stone, even with ideal lever systems, would require coordinated force generation from dozens of individuals capable of sustained maximum effort over extended periods. Experimental archaeology projects attempting to recreate megalithic construction consistently demonstrate the extraordinary strength requirements involved. The BBC's recreation of Stonehenge transportation using period-appropriate techniques required participants who trained for months to develop the strength and coordination necessary, and even then could only move much smaller stones than the actual monument contains. The precision of megalithic construction reveals strength combined with remarkable coordination. Stones fitted together with tolerances measured in millimeters, despite weighing multiple tons. This required not just brute strength, but controlled strength, the ability to make micro-adjustments while managing enormous loads. Modern construction equipment operators train for years to achieve such precision with mechanical assistance. Prehistoric builders achieved it through human coordination alone. Quarrying techniques reveal another dimension of prehistoric construction strength. At sites like Easter Island, volcanic rock was extracted using stone tools that required tremendous force to be effective. Archaeological analysis of tool marks suggests cutting rates that could only be achieved through sustained maximum effort by individuals with extraordinary upper body strength and endurance. The organization required for megalithic construction implies social systems capable of coordinating hundreds of individuals in complex, strength-intensive tasks. Unlike modern construction where specialized machinery performs the heaviest work, prehistoric construction required every participant to possess and contribute significant physical strength. This suggests entire populations with strength capabilities far beyond modern norms. Rope and cordage systems used in megalithic construction show remarkable engineering sophistication, but they also reveal the extraordinary grip and pulling strength of the people who used them. Archaeological analysis of rope wear patterns on stone surfaces suggests tensions that would snap modern synthetic cables. Yet these prehistoric cordage systems, made from plant fibers and animal sinew, were strong enough to control multi-ton loads through human muscle power alone. The lifting techniques preserved in archaeological evidence suggest coordinated strength efforts that challenge modern understanding of human capabilities. Stone blocks show lifting marks and wear patterns indicating they were raised using human-powered systems that generated forces equivalent to modern hydraulic equipment. The synchronized strength required for such lifts, dozens of people generating maximum force in perfect coordination, represents physical and social capabilities that seem almost supernatural by contemporary standards. Archaeological sites show evidence of construction ramps and lifting platforms that required their own extraordinary strength to build and operate. Moving the materials to construct these temporary systems often required strength efforts nearly as impressive as the final monument construction itself. This suggests populations where exceptional strength wasn't limited to a few individuals, but was distributed throughout entire communities. The stamina required for megalithic construction may be even more impressive than the peak strength. Archaeological evidence suggests construction projects that continued for years or even decades, requiring sustained heavy labor day after day. Modern construction workers, even with mechanical assistance and optimized nutrition, rarely maintain heavy physical labor for such extended periods without significant health consequences. Tool making for megalithic construction required its own specialized strength capabilities. The stone hammers, wooden levers, and rope systems needed for moving massive stones had to be crafted using the same human strength they would later amplify. Archaeological analysis of construction tools shows wear patterns indicating forces that would destroy modern hand tools. Yet, prehistoric equivalents continued functioning through projects lasting years. Beyond the massive coordinated efforts of megalithic construction lay another dimension of prehistoric strength that modern life rarely demands: the ability to climb sheer rock faces using nothing but finger strength and balance. Archaeological evidence from cliff-dwelling sites and high-altitude caves reveals climbing capabilities that would challenge modern rock climbing equipment and techniques. Cave sites located hundreds of feet up vertical cliff faces show evidence of regular human habitation, not occasional visits. At sites like the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland or the canyon walls of the American Southwest, archaeological remains indicate that prehistoric humans routinely accessed locations that would require advanced technical climbing skills today. Yet they achieved this access using no equipment beyond their own physical capabilities. Finger strength requirements for sustained climbing are extraordinary by any measure. Modern rock climbers train specifically to develop the grip strength needed for supporting body weight on small holds. Yet even elite climbers rarely sustain such efforts for more than minutes at a time. Archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric climbers regularly ascended routes that would take hours to complete, maintaining finger and forearm strength throughout climbs that would exhaust contemporary athletes. Archaeological analysis of handholds carved into cliff faces reveals something remarkable about prehistoric climbing technique. These aren't the large, comfortable grips that modern climbing routes provide. They're minimal edge holds that would challenge experienced climbers even with modern equipment and training. Yet wear patterns suggest they were used regularly by people carrying loads that would make climbing even more demanding. The biomechanics of sustained climbing place extraordinary demands on the entire kinetic chain. Finger flexors must maintain grip strength while the core stabilizes body position and legs generate upward force. Archaeological evidence from cliff-dwelling sites suggests prehistoric humans developed this integrated climbing strength to levels that seem almost impossible by modern standards. Footwear analysis from high-altitude sites reveals that much prehistoric climbing was accomplished barefoot or with minimal foot protection. Modern climbers depend on specialized shoes with precise rubber compounds for friction on rock surfaces. Prehistoric climbers achieved equivalent or superior performance using the natural grip strength of bare feet and toes, developing foot strength that functioned like biological climbing shoes. The psychological component of equipment-free climbing cannot be understated. Modern climbers have ropes, harnesses, and safety systems that allow for calculated risk-taking. Prehistoric climbers had only their strength, skill, and judgment standing between them and fatal falls. The mental toughness required for such climbing represents psychological capabilities that match their extraordinary physical strength. Archaeological evidence of tool caches and supply storage at high-altitude sites suggests that prehistoric climbers didn't just access difficult locations once, they established regular routes and supply systems that required repeated climbing of routes that would challenge modern expeditions. This implies not just individual climbing strength, but community-wide climbing capabilities that seem extraordinary by contemporary standards. Weather conditions made prehistoric climbing even more demanding than modern equivalents. Without weather forecasting or specialized clothing, climbers had to complete routes regardless of conditions that would shut down modern climbing areas. Archaeological evidence suggests successful climbing in snow, rain, and wind conditions that would be considered extremely dangerous today. The load-bearing requirements of prehistoric climbing extended far beyond personal body weight. Evidence from cliff sites shows transportation of hunting kills, water, firewood, and construction materials up routes that would challenge unladen modern climbers. The strength required to carry substantial loads while maintaining climbing ability represents capabilities that seem almost supernatural. Recovery between climbing efforts was built into prehistoric lifestyle rather than scheduled as modern athletes might plan rest periods. Archaeological evidence suggests that the same individuals who completed demanding climbs were also engaged in hunting, gathering, and construction activities that would be considered full training programs by modern standards. Their climbing strength was just one component of total body capabilities that were maintained through constant use. The cardiovascular systems that powered these extraordinary feats of strength represented perhaps the most remarkable adaptation of all. While we cannot examine prehistoric hearts directly, the demands placed on these circulatory systems and the archaeological evidence of activities that required extraordinary cardiovascular capacity reveal endurance capabilities that transform our understanding of human potential. Persistence hunting, which we touched on earlier, required cardiovascular systems capable of sustaining maximum aerobic output for hours without rest. Modern endurance athletes train for years to achieve the VO2 max levels necessary for sustained high-level aerobic activity. Yet archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans maintained these capabilities not through training, but through daily survival requirements. The multi-day hunting expeditions preserved in archaeological sites reveal endurance that challenges modern understanding of human limits. Tracking evidence suggests pursuit of prey over distances exceeding 50 miles, often accomplished without rest, water, or food resupply. The cardiovascular systems that powered such efforts had to operate at efficiency levels that modern sports science considers near the theoretical maximum of human capability. Archaeological analysis of prehistoric settlement patterns reveals mobility requirements that would exhaust contemporary populations. Seasonal migrations covering hundreds of miles, often while carrying substantial loads and maintaining hunting and gathering activities throughout the journey. The cardiovascular endurance required for such lifestyle patterns represents adaptation to activity levels that modern humans rarely approach even during intensive training periods. High-altitude adaptations visible in prehistoric remains from mountainous regions reveal cardiovascular systems adapted to function efficiently in low-oxygen environments. Archaeological sites at elevations that cause altitude sickness in modern visitors show evidence of permanent habitation, suggesting circulatory adaptations that allowed sustained high-level activity even under conditions that impair modern athletic performance. The integration of cardiovascular endurance with strength activities created prehistoric humans capable of sustained power output that modern athletes rarely achieve. Archaeological evidence suggests individuals who could maintain heavy labor, construction, hunting, tool making for 12 to 14 hours daily without the performance degradation that modern workers experience even with mechanical assistance and optimized nutrition. Thermoregulation under extreme conditions required cardiovascular systems capable of maintaining performance across temperature ranges that would challenge modern athletes. Archaeological evidence from Arctic and desert sites shows sustained activity in conditions that would require modern expeditions to limit activity and provide extensive support systems. Recovery between high-intensity activities was accomplished through cardiovascular systems adapted for rapid lactate clearance and oxygen debt repayment. Unlike modern athletes who schedule specific recovery periods, prehistoric humans needed cardiovascular systems capable of immediate recovery to handle the next survival challenge that might arise without warning. The psychological stress of life or death decision-making placed additional demands on prehistoric cardiovascular systems. Modern research shows that psychological stress significantly impacts cardiovascular performance. Yet archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans maintained peak physical performance even under conditions of extreme stress that would impair modern athletic capabilities. Sleep quality and cardiovascular recovery in prehistoric environments required systems adapted to function optimally despite irregular schedules, environmental stresses, and the constant vigilance necessary for survival. Modern athletes depend on controlled environments and scheduled rest for cardiovascular recovery. Prehistoric humans achieved equivalent or superior recovery under conditions that would be considered impossibly challenging today. Water represented both opportunity and mortal danger in the prehistoric world, and the swimming capabilities our ancestors developed to survive aquatic challenges reveal another dimension of strength that modern pool swimmers rarely approach. Archaeological evidence from coastal and riverside sites shows regular interaction with water environments that would challenge modern swimmers, even with flotation devices and safety equipment. River crossing sites show evidence of regular water traverses during seasonal migrations, often while carrying substantial loads and livestock. The swimming strength required to manage such crossings, maintaining position against strong currents while managing gear and possibly assisting weaker swimmers, represents full body power that few modern swimmers could sustain. Archaeological evidence from fishing sites reveals swimming techniques adapted for underwater hunting and gathering, diving for shellfish, spearing fish in deep water, and recovering materials from lake and river bottoms required breath-holding capabilities and underwater strength that would challenge modern free divers who train specifically for such activities. Coastal sites show evidence of swimming in ocean conditions that would be considered extremely dangerous by modern standards. Archaeological remains suggest regular swimming in surf conditions around rocky shorelines and in water temperatures that would require modern swimmers to use protective equipment. The cold water adaptation alone represents physiological capabilities that most contemporary swimmers never develop. The full body strength required for swimming in prehistoric gear, carrying tools and weapons while swimming, managing animal hide clothing that becomes heavy when wet, maintaining swimming capability while towing materials or assisting others, created aquatic strength that extended far beyond simple swimming technique. Underwater wrestling and fishing techniques preserved in some archaeological sites suggest combat swimming capabilities that seem almost mythical by modern standards. Evidence of spearfishing in deep water, underwater tool recovery, and what appears to be aquatic hunting of animals like beaver and otter required swimming strength combined with breath control that challenges modern understanding. Current management in rivers and coastal areas required swimming strength capable of fighting water forces that would overwhelm modern recreational swimmers. Archaeological evidence suggests successful swimming in conditions where modern safety protocols would prohibit water entry entirely, accomplished through strength and technique that compensated for the absence of safety equipment. The stamina required for long-distance swimming, crossing large rivers, swimming between islands, covering distances that would challenge modern endurance swimmers, was built into prehistoric lifestyle rather than developed through specific training. Archaeological evidence suggests swimming capabilities that were maintained through necessity rather than sport. Emergency swimming situations required strength and skill that could compensate for equipment failure, unexpected weather, or predator encounters. Archaeological evidence of survival in aquatic emergency situations shows swimming capabilities that functioned effectively under conditions that would overwhelm modern swimmers who depend on safety equipment and rescue services. Perhaps most remarkably, all this extraordinary strength coexisted with flexibility and mobility that would be exceptional even among modern gymnasts and martial artists. Archaeological evidence of prehistoric human remains reveals joint mobility and flexibility that seems contradictory to the massive muscular development we've discussed. Yet this combination of strength and suppleness was essential for survival in a world that demanded constant adaptation. Joint analysis of prehistoric skeletons shows range of motion patterns that indicate extraordinary flexibility maintained throughout adult life. Hip joints capable of deep squatting positions that most modern adults cannot achieve, shoulder mobility that allowed overhead reaching and manipulation that would challenge contemporary athletes, and spinal flexibility that enabled positions and movements that seem impossible given the massive muscle development these individuals possessed. The daily activities preserved in archaeological evidence required combinations of strength and flexibility that modern training rarely achieves. Skinning large animals required the ability to maintain awkward positions while applying significant force. Tool making demanded precise manipulation while maintaining positions that would be considered advanced yoga poses today. Hunting required stealth positions that combined maximum strength readiness with flexibility that allowed silent movement through dense vegetation. Archaeological analysis of wear patterns on prehistoric clothing and equipment reveals body positions and movement patterns that indicate flexibility far beyond modern norms. Sleeping positions in cramped spaces, working positions for extended periods, and movement patterns for navigating difficult terrain all required joint mobility that most contemporary humans lose during childhood. The integration of flexibility with combat effectiveness created prehistoric humans capable of fighting efficiently from any position. Archaeological evidence of defensive injuries suggests combat scenarios where flexibility allowed survival in situations that would be impossible for less mobile individuals. The ability to maintain strength and coordination while contorted, off balance, or in compromised positions represented training that was built into daily survival rather than developed through specialized practice. Climbing flexibility combined with strength created movement capabilities that seem almost supernatural by modern standards. Archaeological evidence from cliff sites suggests body positions and movement patterns that would challenge modern rock climbers who train specifically for such flexibility. Yet prehistoric climbers achieved these capabilities while maintaining the massive strength necessary for sustained climbing with heavy loads. Recovery flexibility that allowed rapid transition between different activities was essential for survival in an unpredictable environment. Archaeological evidence suggests individuals who could move from extended running directly into precision tool work, from heavy lifting into detailed manipulation tasks, from combat readiness into relaxed positions for rest. This adaptability required flexibility that was both physical and neurological. Age-related flexibility retention in prehistoric populations seems remarkable by modern standards. Skeletal analysis shows joint mobility maintained well into advanced age among individuals who clearly engaged in heavy physical activity throughout their lives. Modern populations typically lose flexibility progressively with age, yet archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans retained mobility that allowed continued high-level physical performance throughout their lifespans. The psychological component of maintaining flexibility while developing extraordinary strength required body awareness and movement intelligence that most modern humans never develop. Archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans who could instantly assess and adapt to new movement challenges, maintaining optimal biomechanics while generating maximum force across a vast range of positions and conditions. When we compare prehistoric human strength to modern powerlifting and strongman capabilities, the comparisons are both humbling and illuminating. Archaeological evidence suggests deadlifting and moving capabilities that would be competitive even in today's specialized strength sports, achieved not through focused training, but as routine survival requirements. Stone block movement at archaeological sites provides natural strength testing scenarios that allow direct comparison with modern capabilities. Stones that required coordinated lifting efforts by multiple prehistoric individuals often weigh amounts that would challenge modern powerlifting teams using optimal technique and specialized equipment. Yet, archaeological evidence suggests these lifts were accomplished using improvised techniques and no specialized gear. Carrying capacity analysis based on archaeological evidence of transported materials suggests regular load management that exceeds what modern strongman competitors achieve in specialized events. The difference is that prehistoric humans maintained these capabilities day after day rather than peaking for single competitive efforts. Modern attempts to replicate prehistoric lifting techniques using period-appropriate methods consistently show that contemporary strength athletes, despite focused training and optimal nutrition, struggle to match the performance levels that archaeological evidence suggests were routine among prehistoric populations. The integration of lifting strength with endurance created prehistoric humans capable of sustained heavy work that modern strength athletes rarely achieve. While contemporary powerlifters might generate enormous force for single repetitions, archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric humans maintained near maximum lifting capabilities throughout extended work periods. Biomechanical analysis of prehistoric lifting techniques preserved in archaeological evidence reveals efficiency and safety methods that modern strength training is only beginning to understand. Natural lifting patterns that distributed loads optimally, breathing techniques that maintained core stability under maximum loads, and movement patterns that minimized injury risk while maximizing force generation. The absence of specialized lifting equipment forced prehistoric humans to develop lifting strength that was more versatile and adaptable than modern equivalents. Archaeological evidence suggests successful lifting of irregularly shaped objects, loads with shifting weight distribution, and materials that would challenge modern lifting equipment designed for standardized loads. Recovery between lifting efforts was built into prehistoric lifestyle patterns rather than carefully scheduled as modern strength athletes require. Archaeological evidence suggests individuals capable of maximum lifting efforts interspersed with other high-intensity activities throughout the same day, maintaining performance levels that would require modern athletes to choose specialization. The explosive speed capabilities that archaeological evidence reveals represent perhaps the most spectacular demonstration of prehistoric human strength. Unlike modern sprinters who train specifically for speed on prepared tracks with specialized equipment, prehistoric humans developed velocity that was integrated with strength, endurance, and the ability to maintain speed across any terrain while carrying gear and weapons. Archaeological analysis of hunting sites reveals pursuit velocities that challenge modern understanding of human running speed. Trackway evidence suggests sustained speeds exceeding 25 miles per hour over distances that would exhaust contemporary sprinters who specialize in such velocities. But more remarkably, this speed was maintained while navigating uneven terrain that would challenge modern runners even at walking pace. Acceleration capabilities preserved in archaeological hunting evidence suggest explosive starts that rival modern athletic performance. The ability to instantly transition from stationary alertness to maximum velocity pursuit was essential for both hunting success and predator avoidance. Archaeological evidence suggests acceleration that was not just fast, but instantaneous, without the warm-up periods that modern athletes require for peak performance. The biomechanics of prehistoric speed generation differed fundamentally from modern sprinting techniques. Without specialized tracks or footwear, ancient humans developed running forms that generated maximum velocity on any surface. Archaeological footprint analysis shows stride patterns and foot strike techniques that optimized speed while minimizing injury risk on terrain that would be considered unsuitable for modern speed work. Directional change at speed, essential for both hunting and survival, required strength and coordination that modern agility training attempts to replicate. Archaeological evidence of pursuit patterns shows instant direction changes that maintained velocity while responding to prey movement or environmental obstacles. This required core strength and limb coordination that functioned like biological gyroscopes. Sprint endurance, the ability to maintain near maximum velocity for extended periods, represented capabilities that few modern athletes achieve even with specialized training. Archaeological evidence suggests sustained speed over distances that would challenge modern quarter-mile specialists, accomplished by individuals who also maintained strength and endurance capabilities across all other physical domains. Environmental speed adaptation allowed prehistoric humans to maintain velocity in conditions that would shut down modern athletic events. Archaeological evidence suggests successful high-speed pursuit in snow, rain, sand, and across terrain that would be considered impossible for modern speed training. This required not just strength, but adaptability that could instantly optimize performance for any condition. The integration of speed with combat effectiveness created prehistoric humans capable of fighting efficiently while moving at velocities that would impair modern martial artists. Archaeological evidence suggests combat scenarios where speed provided both tactical advantage and survival necessity, requiring coordination between maximum velocity and maximum strength that modern training rarely achieves. As we reach the end of this journey through prehistoric human capabilities, we're left with a profound realization. The extraordinary strength we've explored isn't just historical curiosity, it's our inheritance. Every capability we've examined, from crushing grip strength to cardiovascular endurance that could sustain pursuit for days, represents genetic potential that still exists within modern human DNA. Modern life has systematically eliminated the challenges that built such strength. We've created environments that protect us from the forces that once forged human bodies into living weapons. Climate control eliminates temperature adaptation. Mechanical transportation removes endurance requirements. Processed food reduces jaw strength demands. Flat surfaces eliminate balance and proprioceptive development. Safety equipment compensates for strength that we no longer possess. Yet beneath the adaptations to modern comfort, the same genetic programming that created prehistoric strength remains largely unchanged. The muscle fiber types that generated explosive power still exist in modern humans. The bone density that absorbed tremendous impacts can still develop under appropriate stress. The cardiovascular systems that sustained multi-day hunts can still adapt to extraordinary demands. Modern examples of prehistoric level strength occasionally surface in isolated populations or extreme circumstances. The Sherpa people of the Himalayas demonstrate carrying capabilities that approach prehistoric levels. Certain traditional cultures maintain movement patterns and strength capabilities that provide glimpses into our ancestral potential. Emergency situations sometimes reveal strength that seems to come from nowhere, but actually emerges from genetic programming that never disappeared. The loss of prehistoric strength isn't just about individual capability. It represents the loss of a fundamental aspect of human potential. We've become a species that depends entirely on technology for survival, having abandoned the physical capabilities that sustained our ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. This dependence makes us both more capable and more vulnerable than any previous human population. But perhaps most importantly, understanding prehistoric strength changes how we view our own potential. The next time you feel limited by what seems possible, remember that your body carries the genetic blueprint for capabilities that seem almost superhuman by modern standards. The strength that could crush stone, carry massive loads for miles, outrun prey animals, and survive encounters with predators. That strength isn't lost. It's sleeping, waiting for the challenges that could awaken it once again. The legacy of prehistoric strength isn't about returning to ancient lifestyles. It's about understanding what humans are truly capable of achieving. Every time someone surprises themselves with unexpected strength in an emergency, every time an athlete breaks what seemed like an impossible barrier, every time someone discovers capabilities they didn't know they possessed, we're seeing echoes of the extraordinary strength that once defined what it meant to be human. So as you settle in for sleep tonight, perhaps feeling the pleasant fatigue of your own day's efforts, remember that you are the descendant of the strongest humans who ever lived. Their blood flows through your veins. Their genetic potential waits within your muscles. Their legacy of strength, endurance, and survival lives on in you, ready to emerge whenever life demands more than you thought possible. Thank you for taking this incredible journey with me through the forgotten strength of our ancestors. If this exploration has moved you, inspired you, or simply helped you see human potential in a new light, I'd love for you to subscribe and be part of our growing community. Drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see how these ancient stories connect people across the modern world. Until next time, remember that extraordinary strength isn't just history, it's your heritage. Sleep well, knowing that the power of countless generations flows through you still.